Long before the elegant Georgian promenades were built, the coastline we now call Portobello was a bleak, wind-swept wilderness. Known simply as the Figgate Whins, it was a place of rough heather, gorse and blowing sand. But just off its eastern edge, a dark, heavy industry was taking root. To understand what built this capital, you have to look beneath the earth and then look out to the sea. But beneath it all lies a paradox that a society obsessed with enlightenment and liberty built its foundations on the backs of literal slaves. This is the story of coal and salt. If you walked the shoreline of Joppa in the late 17th and 18th centuries, your eyes would sting from the thick, acrid sulphur smoke hanging in the damp air. Your ears would be filled with the constant rhythmic clanking of iron. William Chambers, whose family lived right among the smoke, described it vividly as a smoky, malodorous place consisting of a group of sooty buildings situated on the seashore. It was a landscape defined by an industrial marriage of absolute convenience. Beneath the soil of Midlothian lay a massive basin of coal seams, dipping sharply at 45-degree angles, running straight out under the bed of the Firth of Forth. Monks and local landowners had been scratching at these shallow outcrops since medieval times. But by the 1630s, the coal masters realised they had a problem. The mines produced a mountain of low-grade small coal, too poor and smoky to sell for heating Edinburgh's grand high-rises. The solution to all that cheap coal? Turn the sea into gold. They chose a stretch of coast just east of the Figgate Whins. In a classic piece of Edinburgh irony, this smoke-choked, soot-stained shoreline was given a grand biblical name, Joppa, after the ancient sun-drenched Mediterranean seaport. But there was nothing holy about what happened here. This became Joppa Pans. If you walk the Joppa shoreline today, past the old stone buildings, you are walking right over a lost industrial complex. But if you look just to the west of Rock Cottage, that sturdy little building with walls 5 feet thick, you are looking at the exact ground where the pans once stood, hissed and boiled. The saltmasters built these massive, shallow iron pans right on the rocky edge of the water. To make just 1 single ton of salt, these workers had to boil dry roughly 6,000 gallons of seawater. It was a ravenous process. It took 50 tons of that cheap local coal to produce a mere 3 tons of salt. Night and day the fires roared under the pans. Seawater evaporated, leaving behind a crust of white crystals. Salt was the oil of the ancient world, the only way to preserve meat and fish for the winter, and a lucrative asset for a growing nation. Soon the salt wives of Joppa, carrying heavy wicker creels on their backs, became a staple sight on the old Roman causeway, tramping miles uphill into the heart of Edinburgh to sell their white gold. But the real cost of this industry wasn't measured in coal or salt, it was measured in human lives. By the turn of the 17th century, the demand for coal and salt was so desperate that the Scottish Parliament passed a series of brutal, iniquitous laws. If you were born into a mining family, or if you took a job at the salt pans, you were legally bound to that estate for life. You became the gearing of the colliers and the pans. If the land was sold, you were sold with it. If you ran away, you were hunted down as a thief, accused of stealing your own body from your master. As Lord Cockburn would later write in his memoirs, they were literal slaves. They belonged, like the serfs of older time, to their respective works. For nearly 2 centuries, this coastal community was forged in the heat of forced labour, bound to the coal below and the salt above. It was a gritty, brutal, soot-stained world, but it established the shoreline. It brought the roads and the first permanent settlements to the coast. The stage was set. The fires were burning, and sitting to the west of the coal pits and the salt pans lay a massive untapped bed of rich prehistoric clay. All it needed was a visionary to see what could be built from the mud.